My notion of human well-being is really open-ended. I don't think we understand what the horizon is, if in fact there is one for kind of ultimate flourishing of conscious minds. We have a pretty good sense of what we don't want and our right not to want, but we don't want to be terrorized and oppressed. The generic situation we want to find ourselves in more and more is to effortlessly cooperate with creative and happy strangers, right? There's 7 billion of us. We need institutions and laws and norms and ways of thinking that take the friction out of pleasurable and non-paranoid interaction with strangers. It's not just about having, 5 or so close friends who have your back, right? I mean, clearly we're all on the same team on some basic level, and if we can't figure out how to build a civilization where everyone thrives to some degree, we'll have the world we currently have. We're in a situation now where I think it's reasonable to worry that our default state of partisanship and tribalism and rational fear of the incompatible aims of other groups and other people is unsustainable in the presence of more and more destructive technology. I think we have to get our act together psychologically and socially in a way that we haven't yet. Philanthropy is when it's telescopic. In this way, when you're just signing a check, you're not necessarily connected to the good you're. And I can imagine someone doing immense good in the world by signing very large checks, but not actually internalizing the gratification of it. Some level, we have to be aware of the possibility of rowing in 2 boats simultaneously, is what the effects are in the world of how we're. So we want to have a good impact on others, but we actually want our conscious states of psychological pain and pleasure to be mapped in some rational way to the kinds of effects we're having. Having our beliefs map onto reality to some degree is obviously good, because if they're not, you're just bumping into hard objects. Your map is completely wrong. You are bound to suffer. So we have to be in a situation where radical ignorance can't be bliss. May be useful to have a slightly delusional, self-serving bias, right? To think you're coming off better than you are, like it may give you more enthusiasm for your life, more confidence. That's one principle. So I think we want our beliefs to be true in some basic sense, and therefore we want to be open to new evidence and better arguments perpetually. If you close yourself off, if you say, listen, I'm done thinking about reality, and I know what's true, then again, when more data comes in, when something's surprising, when one of your intuitions proves to be faulty, if you can't error correct again, you're just gonna fall out of alignment with what's going on in the world and with what other people think is true. So really the only mechanism we have to do that is human conversation. We have to be open to having other people point out errors in our thinking, and we have in the conversation we have with ourselves. We have to do what we have to be continually open to the possibility that we might be. And in fact, we're very likely to be wrong a lot of the time. And so then, hence, the virtue of getting educated and surrounding yourself with smart people and reading good books and just exposing yourself to the kinds of lessons that other people have learned over 1,000s of years and are learned. In time, most of what people care about can be thought of as a skill. Well, being is a skill, not suffering unnecessarily. Is a skill regulating, noticing your emotional life, and regulating negative emotion is a skill. So, I have a meditation app, and meditation is a skill. It's a very useful one, and I'm spending a lot of time teaching what's now referred to as mindfulness meditation. And the moment you begin practicing mindfulness, which is just learning to pay close attention to the nature of your experience, not adding anything to your experience. You're just noticing to be you moment to moment, but in a way that is not reactive. You're not grasping at what's pleasant or pushing what's unpleasant away. Let's say you have the fear of public speaking. So you got to go down on stage and you feel anxiety. The default state of someone who doesn't want to have that experience is who's trying to figure is want to in advance worry about that experience. I mean, the anxiety is kindled just by the mere thought of what you have to do. Then once you feel the butterflies, you are at war with them. First, you can notice that anxiety isn't even that unpleasant. I mean, it's so close to excitement in its actual physiology that really the difference between excitement and anxiety is more or less just the framing. It's just the story you're telling yourself. You know, if you felt these tingles and this, slightly adrenalized response right before you're about to go on a roller coaster, that's part of why you're going on the roller coaster. You like that experience. But the fact that you feel that way when you're about to have an interview or you're about to walk out on stage, that's intolerable. The sense of self, for most of us, is not a feeling that we're identical with our bodies. Most people don't feel identical with their physical body. They feel like they're passengers inside their bodies, right? They like, my body's down here, like these are my hands, these are my legs. I obviously care about these things. If you know this, these were my pains and pleasures are coming from. But I'm up here in the head, so much of what we're thinking is making us miserable. So much of it is unpleasant. So much of it is causing anxiety. You look at your to-do list, you got 50 things on it. You just feel like, oh, my day is not long enough. This is the state we're in. And the obverse of that is when we're really just connecting with life in a joyful, creative, beautiful, like when you look out the window and it's the most beautiful sunset ever, and you are just looking at the sunset, right? You're not like you're fully connected with its beauty. Those are all moments where you're losing the sense of self. You're not really aware of losing the sense of self in those moments. You're not really aware of what is freeing about those moments, and you can't do it in other circumstances. What's happening for people, most people, is that they're waiting for the world to give them a good enough reason to just be present, and to be present so fully that they lose their sense of, right? They're no longer behind their face, just waiting for something good to happen, right? Or figuring out how to change the experience enough so that, again, they're no longer at war. I mean, we're to a greater or lesser degree, we're always at war. I mean, we're always fighting something. There's always this, you're always noticing something wrong. You're feeling uncomfortable in your body. You're reacting to something that somebody did or you thought they did. The moments where you really feel good are moments where there isn't a coming to rest, right? Where it's not about the past or future, it's not about half a second ago. It's not about half a second from now. And the ultimate version of that is to judge, entail the dropping of this sense of self. For me, flourishing is a matter of spending your time pleasantly and happily and creatively every moment when someone asks you, well, that last hour, that last day, that last week, that last year, do you feel good about that? Was that a good use of your time? That remembering self, that retrospective gesture, that's where people worry about things like me. And the remembering self is the self that you're talking to when you say, are you satisfied with your life? Whether you're asking yourself or someone's asking you the answers that are available in those moments, really determine whether or not somebody has a kind of global life satisfaction, whether they have meaning. But the experiencing self, the self that is just going moment to moment, feeling pains and pleasure and just dealing with this very short, time horizon. I think that's fundamentally our real self, the use of negative imagination, where you think of all of the bad things that haven't happened to you. So if you're just, if you're stuck in traffic driving to the job that you don't like and you're frustrated, you can think of all the things that could happen to you, right, that haven't. And if any one of them happened to you, you would consider your prayers answered if you could just be returned to this moment, right? Like you haven't been diagnosed with cancer. You've got 2 young kids, say, you know you want to live to see them grow up. And you could be the guy who today is going to find out you've got 2 months to live. That's just more thinking, but it can have a profound effect. You can reframe your experience in a way that doesn't actually change anything material about your circumstance. And it can let the light in you